Good evening, everyone. This is Reading for Charity again. After a week, there was a short gap in the middle there, which I'll explain in a second. But the usual starting spiel, this is a charity stream. We're reading books for charity. We're reading 100 books in a year, all chosen by donation. And those donations managed to raise £750 so far. I'd really like to get some more. I'd really like to get hit £1,000 by the time I finish this. We'll see. It might never happen, but you know, 750 quid's not good. Not a bad start. Reading for the Archie Foundation. It's a brilliant charity. It works with sick kids in the northeast of Scotland, especially kids that have to go into hospitals. It helps them out. It's a brilliant charity. If you've supported them, thank you very much. If you've never supported them, please go ahead and support them. The links will be in the description of the video. They're a great charity to support, and I'm proud to have raised so much money so far. So today's reviews, I'm going to do 2 in 1, and so they are going to be Joey Barton No Nonsense and Gaz and My Parsnip. And I'm not going to bother with the autobiography of Geordie Shore's Ultimate Lad, because I don't think that's part of the title. Certainly don't think it is. So the reason for doing 2 at once, I was going to do Gaz first. That was the one I was going to review on Sunday when I got home from London. But one, I was absolutely exhausted on Sunday and it was going to be a terrible idea. And secondly, I had started reading Joey Barton and I realised that everything I was going to say about Joey Barton No Nonsense, again there's no punctuation in that book title, everything I was going to say about the Joey Barton book I was going to say about the Gaz book. And it made sense to just kind of bundle them into one review so I could say exactly the same thing about both books simultaneously. Yeah, so first off, the lack of punctuation on the cover of the Joey Barton book distresses me just as much as it has in other books. I think the Trump book comes to mind again, wasn't it? The Art of the Deal. Trump, The Art of the Deal. Yeah, with no punctuation, no colon in there to provide the fact that it's a subheading. So living straight in, the Trump element of this is very similar in these books. A lot of things I said about the Trump autobiography, I'm going to say about these ones as well. For starters, there's an awful lot of look at me, I'm brilliant, amn't I? And that's quite I wonder if that's having read some other autobiographies in the past, there's not always the sense of putting forward what a brilliant person that the subject of the book is. It seems to be either a very modern thing or it's very specific to these 3 people in particular. Maybe not particular, but it's certainly specific to these books. And for all sorts of varying different reasons. Before I go any further, I'll use my usual get out of jail free card when it comes to reviewing autobiographies. I don't want to say anything specific about the people in the autobiographies, because all it takes is a lawyer swooping the internet and suddenly I've got some sort of libel or slander case against me, which I do not want to happen. So I'll be saying very little about the people in the books, just exactly the same as I did with Trump, and I'll be saying very much more about what is said in the books. And again, as a corollary to that statement, nothing I say is about the people. It's very much their words in the books. So please don't sue me. Ha ha ha. On that note, so we'll start with Gaz. It's so the first chunk of the book is reminded me very, very, very closely of Trump. In that it's just going through, his early life and how brilliant and fantastic he was, and how all the girls loved him, and how all the older lads loved him, and how he was great at football, and how he was great at all the sports, and how he was great at this, and he was great at that, and he got really good marks in school, and all the teachers thought he was brilliant, and so on and so on and so on. So it's the same kind of bluster that we get from I talked about in Trump's book. It's very much self-promotion, an awful lot of self-promotion. And through the rest of the Gaz book, when he talks about his time on Geordie Shore, There is a lot of having never seen the show and know absolutely zero about this person until this book was put on my lap. I cannot comment on any of the events that have been described in the book. It's very much written from a certain person's standpoint, and given the book is propaganda for him and someone who's trying to build a media and business empire of his own, of course they're going to put him he's going to put himself in a very, very favourable light. Or I should say his ghostwriter is going to put him in a very favourable light. He still doesn't come out of a lot of the things that he writes in his book particularly well about himself. A lot of the stories are quite confrontational in nature, but a reality TV show is designed to be confrontational by nature. So you can understand quite a lot what's going on. He claims to have quite high... He passed a lot of his exams, but he left school early to go join the Marines, etc. So obviously not academically inclined. He says himself he's not able to stick at anything. He's managed to stick at this so far, but mostly that seems to be drinking and shagging. Fair enough. But the thing that I took away from it is that there's nothing in this book that's his fault. And again, this is a lot like the Trump autobiography, in that anything that went wrong was either a misunderstanding, or it was because of the way he was brought up, or it was just because of the way he is. It was never, I made a bad choice, or I made a bad decision and I've got to live with it. It's always, somebody else's fault, or his upbringing, or his background. It's, there's absolutely no owning of consequences in there. And again, that's very similar to the Trump book. Anything that went wrong in Trump was always somebody else's fault, or Trump made it out that it was actually genuinely a win for him. And there's a lot in the Gaz book as well. There's not a huge amount else to say about the book without talking about the person himself, other than the sidebars, and the sidebars are genuinely hilarious. The sidebars are all about pulling women, and what you should do to pull women, and it's very much pulling women. There's no open-mindedness in there. There's no expectation that the reader might be of any other persuasion. Presumably that's because the person who's going to buy this book is either enamoured with them and is looking to read the book about him, or is a male wanting to emulate him, in which case the sidebars are relatively important to them. But the sidebars vary between move on in a hurry if you're obviously not getting the right signals, which is okay, fair enough. That's essentially a sensible statement to make, even outside of that situation. If you're trying to get something and someone's blatantly not going to be up for doing whatever you're suggesting, move on. Okay, fair enough. Sensible suggestion, and it ranges up all the way to the ridiculous extremes, which is maybe 3/4 of them, which run along the lines of, if you want, I can't believe I'm saying this, if you want to sleep with a girl, pretend to be a reasonable human being. Genuinely is the advice. It's like, don't act like an absolute bastard if you want to get laid. It's like, well, yes. I'm more worried about the fact is that you have to tell people that you have to act like a reasonable human being. Not be a reasonable human being, just act like one for a short period of time. And it genuinely made me laugh. It's the most ridiculous thing I think I've read in any of the books. And I include Animal in that. And Animal, the autobiography of a female body, I can't remember exactly what the subtitle was. That was full of nonsense. But those sidebars were genuinely hilarious for completely the wrong reasons. Yes, that's probably enough said about that. Joey Barton, no nonsense, it was more interesting to me than the Gaz book. In the Gaz book, he very much, all the decisions he makes, he doesn't suggest that other people were involved at all in the decision making process. It's exactly the opposite for Joey Barton. When Joey Barton makes any form of decision, he's talked to someone else beforehand. I talked to, right at the very start of the book, he's talking about his kid being born. And, it's along the lines of, this guy drove me to the hospital and was talking to me about it. This other person was saying, oh, it's going to change your life. This person found that my child's name was the same as theirs and talked to me about it. Every decision he kind of makes is due to a conversation with somebody. And in that, he essentially removes a chunk of the blame for his bad choices. So, there's very much a chunk of deflection of blame there. More so than the Gaz or the Trump novels, who are very much, the word I appears in every single sentence in those two novels. It less so in the Joey Barton one. And he kind of writes a mea culpa at the start of the book. He says, I've made bad decisions, I've been in prison, things have obviously gone wrong for me at certain points in my life. And then he immediately follows it up with, but if you'd grown up the same way as I did, you would have made the same choices as me. And it's kind of like, well, have you learned anything from those periods then? And you're reading through the book, the answer is pretty much no. All of the events that seem to have happened to him, again, in some way or another, are not his fault. It's the way he was brought up. So he was brought up to be, combative. He was brought up never to stand back. He was brought up never to allow anyone to walk over him. And if you went, you grew up in the rough part he grew up in, and you showed any weakness, they'd eat you alive, and therefore he's the way he is. And that absolves him of blame for a lot of his actions. And again, no, that's not true. There's plenty of people out there who grew up in similar circumstances who didn't grow up to to go to prison or to punch people on football pitches or any number of the other mea culpas he calls up in the book. There's lots of people who didn't happen. The fact that you did doesn't absolve you of the blame for these decisions. And I think it's the striking thing for all three of the books is the inability to accept their actions at all. Any mistakes were made not because of their decisions, it was because of their upbringing, etc., etc. Exactly what I've been saying. But all the good things that have happened were definitely down to them and not down to their upbringing, yada 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 yada. So all three books are very much accepting, accept excess, deflect the blame. And maybe this is just something symptomatic of successful people. Always, don't let the negatives get you down. Just ignore them, move on, concentrate on the successes, and you build up something there. Maybe it's a successful person thing, and I think that would be far more interesting to read as a book. Maybe that'll be put on the next list. What's the 10 habits of successful people? Is that the one? I think I've read that one before and it was rubbish. Maybe everything I'm saying is rubbish. Who knows? A lot of the comments that I made about Gaz, apply to Joey Barton as well. The stories in themselves are very much a cherry-picked set of vignettes. Some of it show him in a good light, some of it show him in a bad light. But the ones that show him in a bad light have been carefully picked to either be, relevant and then pushed into rose-tinted glasses, or have been shown that he's actually not a bad sort after all. It was interesting, and by the end of the book, he's trying to show that he has it's very much pseudo-intellectualism. It's I've read some complicated books and I know some long words, therefore that makes me intelligent kind of view of intelligence that, bright people will sit and go, well, it doesn't impress me, but it maybe impresses the people that you hang around with now. But no, knowing long words and having read some Eastern philosophy doesn't make you a clever person. And maybe Joe Barton is more intelligent than I give him credit for, but he offers no evidence for it in this book. I know him as a footballer, and he says, near the start of that, you know me as a thug, as a hooligan, as an idiot, as a footballer, and yes, I do. Those are literally the things I know about Joey Barton, and there's absolutely nothing in real life that would change my mind away from that. And this autobiography, I think, fails to make the case that he wants to make. If you are sympathetic towards Joey Barton in the first place, maybe it would sway you a bit. If you're not, and I'm obviously not, it doesn't sway me at all as an autobiography. Yeah, so I think it's all three of the autobiographies that I've read have all been very interesting in different ways. I mean, Trump is super topical just now, super topical, and having read that book, you understand how much bluster he has in him, how it's all talk, and when it comes down to it, he's not going to follow through on a lot of the things that he says, because he thinks he can threaten and just get away with it, and people will fold because that's what he's used to. And also, if you read Trump's book, you'd know exactly how to deal with him, because you just appeal to his ego. That's how it works. In the Gaz book, the Gaz autobiography is clearly part of a marketing campaign for his brand. As it is with the reality TV show and his shops and his condom brand, or all the things he talks about in the book. It's all very much brand Gaz. And okay, that's fair enough. It's a different style of autobiography. It's very much the autobiography of someone who has been around a very short space of time and is trying to make a name for himself and has actually relatively little to say. So it's a different style of one, and it's still interesting. The Joey Barton one, which is a different style again, which is it's the rehabilitation novel. So where should I include Mein Kampf in this as well? Yeah, okay, fair enough. So where Trump's autobiography is very much the I'm a big successful businessman. It's very much brand Trump. It's pushing everything about him in a good light. It's talking to his ego. It's very much a Trump book. What I said about Mein Kampf, about it being both pre and post. What was the word I used? Justifications. So it was justifying before and after the actions of what was to come. So it was justifying the events. Joey Barton's book is again kind of justifying the events. It's very much whereas Mein Kampf was, this is what's going to come and here's why. And after the event, you'll go back and read this book and you'll understand what happened. Joey Barton's book is very much so look at what happened through the prism of this book, and you'll see why those things happened. This is very much post justification, where Mein Kampf was pre justification. But that doesn't make the two books any less propaganda-ish. I mean, Joey Barton's obviously trying to rehabilitate himself in the eyes of people in general in the writing of this book. Ghostwritten, of course. They're all ghostwritten. But that's, again, it's the purpose. It's justifying events in the way that Gaz isn't necessarily. The Gaz book, I don't think he tries to justify any events that happen in the book. It's all written very matter-of-factly. This kind of happened, that happened, and I felt like this and I felt like that. But there's no talking about how I can't remember the name of the girl that he sleeps with repeatedly in the Gaz book. There's no saying, therefore all women are evil because this woman, led me on, yada yada yada. There's no justifications in the book for what happened. It's very much, moments. The Joey Barton and Mein Kampf ones are very much justifications of what happened. Trump less so. I don't think he tries to justify things in his books as much as just spins them. He's not trying to say, I managed to get this piece of work done on time, or I failed to get this person evicted, and thereby proving that all Jews are evil or whatever. But those two books are. I mean, I realise I've just compared Joey Barton to Hitler, but Yeah, okay, I have. But the style of Mein Kampf and the Joey Barton No Nonsense one are vaguely similar in that they are both about justifications of actions, one pre, one post, but that's what they're there. So I find them all very interesting. All of the autobiographies are essentially about propaganda in one sense or another. I know Mein Kampf isn't strictly an autobiography, but it kind of is. They're all about propaganda one way or another, and I think they're interesting to read and to be put in that light. You read the books with the eye of how things are spun and the turns of phrase that the ghost authors use and the things that are omitted as much as the things that are left in. I think they're valuable tools to understand how propaganda and spin work. So again, something that I've said previously, but all the books are rough. If you ignore talking about the subjects of the books, and I have to because I don't want to get sued, because I'll have unflattering things to say about all of them, you're just left with talking about the books, and all the books have roughly the same idea. So yes, we will stop talking about all these books because I have just compared Joey Barton to Hitler, and yeah. He's not... I can't say anything else. Anything else just makes it sound worse. Okay, so Sunday. Sunday's going to be the next review. It's going to be the first of the ancillary books. It's Ancillary Justice, I think, is the first one. It's on my Kindle, so I've got nothing to hold up. That will be Sunday. Interesting so far. I'm going to have an interesting review of that one, I suspect. That's part of a trilogy, but they're not particularly big, so I should be able to get through them not too bad. We won't have another instance of the Dark Tower lasting forever. Yeah, I don't think I'll get as annoyed with this trilogy, so that's fine. So yes, anyway, that will be on Sunday. So again, we're reading for the Archie Foundation. It's a fantastic charity. This is a donation-led 100 books in a year challenge. So far, this is 31 books down so far, and coming up for a third. I'll add the Just Giving donation link in the description of the videos. Please, 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 if you've never donated, donate. It's a fantastic charity. I'm proud to support it. We've raised 750 quid already. I'd love to raise more. So yes, until Sunday, thank you very much for watching. This is Reading for Charity, and good evening.